Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I am Indu Saxena, Chief Operation Officer at the Consortium of Indo-Pacific Researchers. Today's discussion is focused on India-Pakistan crisis, security implications in South Asia. India and Pakistan are on the brink of a full-fledged war. The heightening tension between two nuclear-armed states is very concerning. The current situation arose due to the brutal and cold-blooded attack on tourists in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, in India on April 22nd that killed 26 innocent lives. 2 weeks after the Pahalgam attack, India launched Operation Sindoor, strikes back aiming at 9 locations of terrorist organization in Pakistan. The ongoing drone and missile attacks have escalated the situation towards a catastrophic conflict. In this discussion, we are going to discuss the current situation and the potential off-ramp and how to de-escalate the situation. We recently came to know that US President Trump announced the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. And we will explore more on this. We will learn more on this during the discussion. To navigate these complex questions, we have a team of experts. We have Major General Vinod Basnat. He's a retired Nepali Army major and a political security analyst. Major General Vinod Basnat is highly decorated with the Order of Superbal Jana Seva Shri Nepal, Order of the Line of Finland, and the Order of Cross of Germany. He holds a Master of Philosophy degree in Defense and Strategic Studies. He represented the UN Department of Political Affairs as a resource person for Sri Lanka's Transformation and Reconciliation Program post-retirement. He has joined us from Kathmandu. Welcome, Major General Vinod Basnayat. We have Lieutenant Colonel Jasinder Singh Sodhi. Colonel Sodhi is a veteran from the Bombay Sappers, Corps of Engineers of the Indian Army with over 21 years of service. He is an alumnus of the National Defense Academy, Khadakwasla, Pune, and in the Indian Military Academy, Dehradun. He is now an international media personality whose articles and comments on defense and strategic issues are frequently published in 60 reputed Indian and international publications. He has joined us from New Delhi. We have Dr. Satoru Nagao. Dr. Nagao is a fellow non-resident at Hudson Institute based in Tokyo. Dr. Nagao's primary research area is US-Japan-India security cooperation. He wrote his thesis on India's military strategy, the first such research thesis on this topic in Japan. He has joined us from Tokyo. We have Dr. Muhammad Jaidul Islam Khan. Dr. Khan, a retired group captain of Bangladesh Air Force and traveling scholar. He is a visiting research fellow of the Department of Politics and International Relations, University of Reading, United Kingdom, and the registrar of the American International University, Bangladesh. He has joined us from Dhaka. Welcome, everyone. And now we start with the initial remarks from each of you on the current India-Pakistan crisis and what is the potential de-escalation or the off-ramp for the situation. Major General Basnat, would you like to start or just, are you okay with now?
Yeah, I'm fine, yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Can you can hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very nice seeing you, Indu, again.
Sir, same here.
Nice to be in with the other panelists. It's my pleasure. But let me start with just an opening remarks. saying that there are two ways of looking into the current Pahalgam terrorist attack. One is it's an unresolved issue since 1947. I mean, firstly, if you see there is a United Nations as observers military group in India, Pakistan, which still exists. I I think there is about 32 to 42, something like that. And the second aspect is, there is terrorist activities continue taking place time and again in different forms. And the third is the militarization is worsening tensions as the nuclear arms haven't resolved the South Asia's hostility, because nuclear arms sometimes is taken as a threat, the use of it, whether tactical or strategic. But at the same time, it is a way maybe India-Pakistan hostility, full-scale war hasn't taken place. And the other is, like resources can fuel, like the Indus River can fuel the escalation. And the other is the management of the geopolitical spirits may go out of control. Lastly, I mean, terrorism thrives in division. So the extremist group generally try to divide the events that take place. And the second point that I would like to bring out is it is more than a bilateral issue now. It has geopolitical consequences, and it's a geopolitical challenge. As in the Russia and Ukraine war, when the world was divided, polarized into supporting and supporting, these common challenges, the international, I mean, the terrorism is a common challenge. One of the common factors we have to see about terrorism, it's a common cause that everyone fights against. So, trying to find divisions in the issue, trying to make it look like a bilateral issue will not help the region, nor the international condemnations on the terrorist acts. So one of the points that I would like to, a few points that I would like to raise why the issue is a political challenge and why we need to look into for solving it is, one is the withdrawal of the United States and the NATO troops from Afghanistan and the return of the Taliban. Second is the US and China rivalry taking forms in different ways now. Third is China and India's cooperation, competitions, and confrontation. And the other is China and Pakistan friendship as an all-weather friendship, and China's interest in South Asia, a growing interest in South Asia. And the other is India's, revoking the Article 370, and adding a new province, Ladakh. And the other is, this isn't a bilateral issue. It is trilateral in concept because of Kashmir is claimed by Pakistan, India, and China at the same time. So with this opening remarks, I end.
Thank you, Major General. We will discuss more on the questions. And now I would invite Lieutenant Colonel J.S. Sodi. Sir, please go ahead.
Jai Hind, Indu. It is my
Yes,
honor
sir.
and proud privilege to be part of this very distinguished panel to AMI Views. Good evening to all the panelists. Well, certainly the India-Pakistan current military standoff has ended in about 88 hours, as has been recently announced by the US President Donald Trump. But this is not the last of the military standoffs between India and Pakistan. On 17th March this year, General Upendra Dwivedi, the Chief of Army Staff of the Indian Army, said in a statement that a two-front war on India is no longer a possibility, it's a reality. Last year, on 4th February 2024, the Director of National Intelligence of USA released the Annual Threat Assessment Report 2024, in which it has been clearly brought out that the way the tensions between India, Pakistan, and China are increasing, they are inching towards a war. Well, from my own analysis, I've written a book also, which was released last year, called China's War Cloud, the Great Chinese Checkmate. All timelines in the public domain point to a two-front war to be waged jointly by China and Pakistan on India in 2035. We have exactly a decade wherein either we usher in peace between the three countries or we see a full-fledged two-front war, which will not be limited between these three countries only, like has been rightly assessed. Any tension between the three countries or between two countries also in South Asia will have a larger implication and ramification for the entire South Asia. So definitely, this is not the last of the military standoffs we are seeing, but it is a big lesson that a bigger thing is on the horizon. And if steps are not taken in to ensure that South Asia doesn't see a military war happening in the near future, well, we are in for a much bigger and a much ghastlier war than what we have seen in just about 88 hours between India and Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your remarks. Now I invite Dr. Nagao for his initial remarks. Dr. Nagao, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it is honor for me to do that because I need to say congratulations to India in this case. Because when we checked military operation India has conducted after the terrorism attack in the April 22nd, India's actions deliberately attack only terrorists, not the military facilities at the first time. So strange is irresponsible behavior of Pakistan because they support terrorism and retaliation against India's effort to eliminate terrorists, despite India's military operation, is not attack Pakistan military facility. And now Pakistan faced a little bit serious situation because they ran out ammunition and try to prepare something, the nuclear intimidation. So now ceasefire has made because the situation demand the ceasefire in Pakistan, I believe. Because Pakistan need to deal with the two terrorism organizations at the same time, even if they support Islamic terrorism against India. Two is one is the Taliban in Pakistan, and another one is of course, terrorism or not is it rely on the definition, but rebellion in the Balochistan. And they also selling the ammunition to Ukraine. Of course, they import a Russian engine for their fighter jet, but at the same time, they are selling the weapon to Pakistan. And in this, their financial situation is also serious because they are nearly bankrupt. So IMF is helping, or China and the Middle Eastern countries are helping. So under such a situation, the ammunition is running and the budget is serious for Pakistan. So despite this, Pakistan need to show something a big show by launching a huge number of the drone against India to 36 sites. 36 sites means that if this kind of attack is a military purpose, this is not logical because the concentration breaks the defense line to destroy it. This is a military operation, but the diverse 36 target means that this is not a military operation. This is a political operation. So that's why political operation by using the military equipment. So that's why Pakistan tried to show something evidence they are protected to their civilians. But at the same time, this is just a show. So they are running out of their ammunition now. So under such a situation, ceasefire is only way Pakistan can choose. So now they agreed, this is good. So this means that this is a victory of the India and the victory of the India's responsible behavior as a great power with a nuclear weapon. And this is good for the Trump administration too, because ceasefire in Russia and Ukraine not happened yet. And the ceasefire in the Middle East, temporarily that has happened, but now the restarted. So that's why this is the first incident Trump administration show the ceasefire agreement they arranged. So that's why this is good for both India and the United States, a win-win situation for them. And of course, this situation will help the Pakistan to survive, I think. So that's why this is good for all and good for all of the world too. So that is the best situation. So that's why I need to say congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nagao, for your remarks. And we just have received the State Department's official press note, so that there's a ceasefire mediated by the United States between both countries, and really it's a very good news for the both sides and for the entire South Asia, and of course the Indo-Pacific. Thanks again for your remarks. We will take the discussion in the QA session. Now I invite Dr. Jahidul Khan. Dr. Jahid, please, over to you. And go ahead, please slide. You can share with the system.
Can you see the slides?
Sir, we can see it.
All right. Thank you very much, Indu, once again for calling me and inviting me for this particular seminar. It's very difficult, actually, when emotions runs high and also flurry of emotive expressions. Facts are not totally established to speak on the topic. So what I'll do is that as an Air Force officer, I know very much about the targeting and all these, but that's not the topic here for me, because the topic is on security implication on South Asia. So before I make that my opinion and expression, I must make this disclaimer that the opinion and expressions that I'm making here is entirely of my own as a researcher and reader of politics and international relations, and does not reflect the opinion of the affiliated institutions. So what I intend to do is just three things. First is I will three potential implications I'll highlight from a subsystemic level, grounded on constructivist school of thought on international relations, and one conclusion which has already almost emerged, but I was hoping it will come from Saudi Arabia, seeing the notes, but it has come from the Washington. So to start the discussion at a systemic level, which is different than what we discuss on tactical level things or operational level things, is to look at what is the regional security complex. The most authentic or probably the most authoritative work on this field was done by Barry Buzan and Ole Weber in their books, and in which there is a specific part for the South Asian region, in which he tells neither Pakistan nor India attracted any South Asian regional allies, which means that India succeeded in keeping the high politics of the region on a bilateral basis. He also goes on to tell that South SAARC remained dormant and not affected, which was around, at that time, he wrote it in 2003, which was around 18 years old SAARC. And the Nepal and Bhutan were both dependent on India for trades and transits. Bhutan was a formal dependency. And the Sri Lankan's link is also highlighted in the book of Buzan. Now, the question that actually is the heart of this today's discussion, if you are focusing on the regional, if we are interested on knowing what does it mean for the region, which remains hostage of an India-Pakistan rivalry, is, has it changed and towards what direction? And will the high politics of the region continue to remain at the bilateral level, or does it involve other countries? So in that light, I will put three propositions. The first one, South Asia will continue to be the least integrated region in the world. And it will compel the smaller states, apart from India and Pakistan, which is already nuclear tipped, to look for security partners and allies from extra-regional powers. This is a compulsion, a systemic compulsion. Any reader of politics and international relations will understand this. We have already seen that kind of push, because the present push is for a global identity by small South Asian state is driven by the economic and development needs. Now it is going to be expanded into the security needs. And it will transition from it will make the transition of these smaller states in the South Asian region from a peripheral partner to a treaty alliance with certain extra-regional powers. So that is what one of the propositions that I'm proposing. And there is also a misalignment with the key regional actors on fundamental norms like sovereignty, relative strategic autonomy, and non-interference policy. So these are the driving force which will sort of shape the regional security dynamics because of this India-Pakistan rivalry. One particular evidence was already cited in that book by Dr. Sri Radha Datta, a acclaimed writer from India, whose book on Bangladesh on a New Journey. In that, there is a professor, Titumir, who writes Making of the Bangladesh Doctrine, Strategic Autonomy, and Developmental Deterrence. And he actually talks about this. We are not an alliance to any other extra-regional countries, but this is pushing us when an alliance with a major power, namely alliance with the US or the China, for instance, is desirable. That is going to be dictating Bangladesh or small other countries like Nepal or Bhutan. Nepal, for example, is a buffer state between the two, India and China. And then whether that suppose advances their core objective of that country to secure a relative autonomy in the region. So these are fundamental dynamics of this particular war. Second is, of course, there is another proposition that I want to make is the current episode, which is very sad and condemnable, which has transformed into an open hostility. And of course, Pakistan has termed it as an act of war, is perhaps an example of war can be used as an instrument of low politics with high security risks in the region. We have seen that Buzan talks about high politics keeping away, because unlike the previous terrorist attacks attributed to Pakistan, the smoking gun test, if one is familiar with this smoking gun test, which is used by the academics in process tracing methodology, first is hoping there is also, after smoking gun test, there is a hoop test and then doubly decisive test. Probably if you write on these particular incidents, it might not stand to the test or reason, as opposed to the other incidents, which does stand to the test. Now, the transition to the open hostility by state actors, if you also employ the necessary and sufficient conditions, it may not also pass in that. And it succumbs to the theory of rhetorical adduction, which is in my fellow colleague, Joseph Mahoney from Reading University, has written a very good article on this rhetorical adduction theory, particularly focusing on Bangladesh and India and China and Pakistan. And the minimum credible deterrence nuclear strategy is also put at risk and is also in test. But at the end, what I think is that it will not change the strategic calculus of Pakistan. It will remain a rogue or a supporter of terrorism in one way or the other for its strategic calculation. But now the question also comes whether it will also affect India's credibility as a net security provider in the region. That is the regional implication that we should be talking about if we are elevating our discussion slightly above the tactical and operational level details. The third point I want to make is that Indo-Pak conflict, it's also, although it is rooted and survives on a complex array of historical, cultural, and religious factors on the surface and the social media platform, it is fundamentally a reflection of the failure of our leadership to address a gray zone and hybrid warfare strategy adopted mostly by Pakistan, and escalating into open hostility, often challenging the sovereignty norm, which can be interpreted as a challenging the sovereign norm with far-reaching implications. Now, the evidence of it is that because we could not solve it, the thing has to the declaration had to come from Washington. So why I'm saying sovereignty norm? Because it is very sensitive to the small South Asian countries. And it is not only small South Asian countries, for all South Asian countries. So there is a gradual shift in powerful countries, particularly the aspiring powers, not to respect the sovereignty norm that we have seen in the case of Ukraine, and now in the case of in other cases also. India's historic position of sovereignty norm was path dependent in Czechoslovakia, in Afghanistan, in Ukraine. It has been aligned with the USSR or the Russia, as opposed to its conventional wisdom of exercising strategic autonomy or an active non-alignment partner. So these are all evidence-based things which makes apprehension for a small state living in the neighborhood, that whether that kind of sovereign norm violation will be applied in certain context. China has also done this, and it has dispensed as traditional support for sovereignty norm, presumably to satisfy Russia, her allies, with no limits. Now, this creates a heightened security dilemma in the small South Asian state, and they will obviously try to look beyond the region, and also, of course, at the same time, for self-help, joining the arms race and sourced not from the regional powers, and sadly dispensing the development need or sufferer for this particular spell of India-Pakistan conflict would be the people of the region, not those two countries, but the other smaller countries as well. As General Binoz was telling, it is not essentially a bilateral thing. It has implications for the smaller states in the region. So the concluding thought in the final way forward, we have already the potential off-ramp moment, as I was discussing a little bit at the beginning, that there is an attempt by both the parties to project that their military measures taken are measured, and it's targeted, it's specific to some purpose. This is sort of begging the legitimacy of the international actors, that no, I am not the defaulter. So that gives a room for the international actors to be a particular actor to sort of stop these two countries from fighting each other. And target selection has, although it has escalated from, for example, terrorist hubs in Pakistan to military and then gradual shifting, but still it has remained in some way contained within a very limited areas. Ground forces engagement has also been limited. That's another indication that the off-ramp moment has not been lost. And the major powers reaction has been also balanced. I know there was a meeting at the United Nations Security Council, a closed door meeting on 5th May on this, in which there was some presentation discussions. But there's also another win-win another aspect of this war, that it has become a potential intelligence gathering about the effectiveness of the military technology platforms used by both sides. Some of the Chinese are also taking intelligence of the effectiveness, and the Western Russians are also taking. So with that, the conclusion comes from another great sort of scholar and the diplomat who in 1971, on 4th December, in the height of Indo-Pak War, when Bangladesh was born, where and India joined the war after India internationalizing the war, India joined it. He said that the United Nations would be the link. It should immediately call for a meeting of Asian chiefs of states and try to pour oil on the troubled waters, not to appeal, not to educate, but to restore Asian magnanimity, to an immediate end of the war with Asian solution, a solution that will be acceptable. It will be an Asian solution, not an UN solution, but through the instrumentality of the United Nations. So that moment hasn't come yet. As I can see, the conclusion, the declaration is coming from the Washington, and I was hoping that it would again come from a US Saudi diplomat because of the to and fro movement of the Saudi foreign minister. With that, I conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jahid, for your presentation. It was interesting, and we'll see more in the Q&A session. Before opening the session for the question and answers, let me announce the press note from the State Department, U.S. State Department, as Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. Over the past 48 years, Vice President Vance and I, it's from the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, have engaged with senior Indian and Pakistani officials, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Shehbaz Sharif, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, Chief of Army Staff Asim Munir, and National Security Advisor Aziz Doval and Asim Malik. I am pleased to announce that Government of India and Pakistan have agreed to an immediate ceasefire and to start talks on a broad set of issues at a neutral site. We commend Prime Minister Modi and Sharif on their wisdom, prudence, and statesmanship in choosing the path of peace. So that is very good news. With that, let's move to the QA session. I just want to ask the first question on the terrorism. Major General Basnath, you just mentioned that this conflict is not the bilateral, or the tension is not the bilateral, it's a multilateral problem. So I just pointing out on the terrorism in India. So in India or in the South Asian region, how do you see that that terrorism still a very big threat in the South Asia? And do you see any platform or any cohesion from the South Asian countries to combat against terrorism? Major General Basnath, can you hear me? I can go with that. We can ask the another speakers if Major General is not there. So, Lieutenant Colonel Sodi, do you see that the terrorism there should be a cohesion in South Asia, looking at the terrorism as a threat? There should be some a forum, or there should be some strategy from all South Asian countries, like from not only from India, but from including Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka, and Maldives.
Well, Indu, definitely. You see, terrorism is never limited or confined to one nation's borders. Today, if it is inflicting India, if it is affecting India, chances are it will soon spread to every South Asian nation, how peaceful and calm they may be as of today. But can terrorism totally end in South Asia? Can terrorism totally end in India? Well, let me go back a little in history. In 1971, after the India-Pakistan war, when Pakistan was split into two nations and Bangladesh emerged as a new country, this was the month of December 71. Next month, on 24th January 1972, there was a conference held in the city of Multan in Pakistan. It is called as the Multan Conference. This Multan Conference was presided by the then Pakistani Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. And in this Multan Conference, three important decisions were taken for Pakistan. One, Pakistan will go nuclear. Two, in the times ahead, Pakistan will wage a war on India for Jammu and Kashmir. And third, Pakistan will aid and abet terrorism in India as a means of destabilizing India internally. After 6 years, when General Ziaul Haq seized power in a military coup, he officially formulated this doctrine into a military doctrine called Bleeding India with 1,000 Cuts. Until date, this military doctrine of Bleeding India with 1,000 Cuts is taught in the Pakistani Staff College in Quetta, where the middle level military officers of the Pakistani Army, Navy, and Air Force go for training. Now, as part of this Bleeding India with 1,000 Cuts, the first time that Pakistan used this policy was in the Indian state of Punjab, when in the early 80s to 1995, for a period of 15 years, Pakistan fully supported the Khalistan movement in Punjab. After the Khalistan movement was crushed in Punjab, Pakistan started supporting terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir from the end of 1989, and it is over 36 years that terrorism is still there in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, Pakistan will keep the terrorism alive in Jammu and Kashmir till 2035, because that is the time when it will go into a two-front war with India, where in 2035, the first attack on India will be by Pakistan for Jammu and Kashmir, which Pakistan will tell the international community because there was instability in Jammu and Kashmir, hence it attacked India. And then China will attack India for Arunachal Pradesh. So for next 1 decade, I don't foresee Pakistan totally stopping terrorism. Even if South Asian countries come together, I find it extremely difficult to comprehend at this stage that Pakistan will let go terrorism in totality. What it can do maximum is lip service. What it can do, what it has been doing in the past, that imprison few of the terrorist leaders, put them in lavish five-star jails, let them enjoy life at the Pakistani state government expense, and then release them as the media pressure reduces. But to think that terrorism will end from Pakistan is extremely impossible, because Pakistan has now adopted this as part of its official doctrine. Now, it is really unfortunate, but then one should speak up the truth, because this is a forum where we all are from different countries, and the aim is to educate and enrich each other so that we arrive at a solution wherein we see peace in South Asia, because for us, peace in South Asia is paramount. You see, India has 8 neighbors. We take out Pakistan and China, with whom hostilities have been there and will be there, come what may. That leaves 6 nations. Out of 6 nations, it is only Bhutan which is totally aligned with India. The balance 5 nations are in the Chinese grip. The balance 5 nations have signed the Belt Road Initiative with China. The BRI, as on date, may seem to be a civil infrastructure project, but the latent aim of BRI is that the BRI infrastructure will be used by China for military purposes whenever it decides to wage the war. You know, there are 3 wars that will be fought under Xi Jinping's tenure before he relinquishes his presidentship due to old age. The first war is the war for Taiwan. Second is the war for Spratly Islands. And the third war and last war under Xi Jinping's presidentship will be the two-front war with Pakistan on India. Let us come first to the Taiwan war, because that is important. That is the start point for us to understand that the wars are on the horizon.
Sir, sorry for interruption. I would take this in the next question when we'll see the regional alliance. What's the role for China and Turkey in this conflict, in this current crisis? So let me take the remarks from each speaker on this one.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Major General Basnet, please.
Yeah. All right.
Mhm.
As I see, I think we're talking about the scope of terrorism, a threat in South Asia. I think every country in South Asia, in whatever forms, it may be dormant, it may be active, it may be terrorist act, it may be attack systems, but we are somehow or the other, all the 8 nations involved. It is not just India alone. So it is, so actually it is driven by a lot of, so in the contemporary, like the strategic environment, I believe that terrorism should not be isolated, not just a challenge for India, but it's a regional security crisis. So we all have to find a way of taking it forward, which means, we have to be able to isolate the challenges, like challenge the terrorism. At the same time, we have to be like, for example, when I looked at the statements that the Nepal government gave, Nepal abides by the non-alignment policy, but at the same time, when it comes to strategic issues that impact the small nations and but the global challenges, Nepal has stood against against the policies. Like example is the Terrorism Act in Pahalgam. In Nepal's day before yesterday took out a statement, so it did not stand neutral on condemning terrorism at the same time going against it. But and the other one example I can give is Nepal's stand against a Russian offensive. It did not support Russia because it is a principle versus international law and international law and rules regulations. So small states. So I think these examples must be taken in South Asia, and so we should collaborate, cooperate, find a common. And luckily, and I think we are lucky enough, like on bilateralism. India has mechanisms to talk with Pakistan to diffuse things. At the same time, I think our region also has, like SARC in 2008 established and counterterrorism suppression group which could act on that. And BIMSTEC has several subgroups on it, like joint military exercises, chiefs meeting, and the other is the body to address counterterrorism. So we have ways that we can do, but it's just our conviction that we need.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to make a question from what you said. You said that the Nepal is a small country. Yeah, the small country, but very challenging internal disturbances. So could you just tell a bit about the Nepal's ongoing current situation? I read one of your article recently. So to make aware that, like we are saying, the small states, like in the Bangladesh too, the small states, but very high, big internal disturbances in these countries. How they manage, we are just talking about the multilateral and coming against terrorism in the South Asian region. We are talking about the SARC, revival of the SARC. But again, when we sit together, this comes the challenge of terrorism. So just want to know, because I'm also not fully aware of the current situation in Nepal. So please.
Yeah, but Dr. Indu, yeah, thanks for bringing out that, because it does contribute to the policies and the principles that we should follow to act on common challenges. I mean, Nepal has been going through a lot of political upheavals, but at the same time, yes, we can see the political parties having their own thoughts on how to go about. So there are challenges that, like party relationship, political parties' own foreign policy, Nepal not sticking to a united foreign policy, are hindrances to addressing the national interests of Nepal. But at the same time, I get quite pleased on important issues like Russian aggression, like the terrorist act in Pahalgam now. I get a feeling that, yes, we do see a united effort, a united thinking going amongst the political leaders. Though, I mean, I'm not agreeing to the fact that Nepal is perfect. I mean, it has to go a long, long way. I mean, you can see on the roads of in Kathmandu on protests. There's another one coming up in 2 weeks' time, and for looking for another political system. So that remains. But at the same time, when it comes to dealing with on diplomacy, I think I see at least united voices against the common challenges. And I hope Nepal, as a chair of SARC, could take a diplomatic step forward in trying to find a common platform. Like when the United States just brought out the issues of finding a neutral space. Maybe Kathmandu will be a neutral place for China and Pakistan to come and talk.
Now, I would like to, Dr. Nagao, I would like to have your comment, because I know that Japan abruptly and absolutely supported India on the Pahalgam terror attack and India's strategy to combat the terrorism. How do you see that India-Japan collaboration on terrorism, bilaterally, apart from the Quad?
If this battle between India and Pakistan continue, of course it will affect Japan-India relation, because most of the Japanese, the education is based on pacifism, and they afraid the conflict-ridden situation. So, for example, how to collaborate two countries against China. In this case, the two things is needed. One is security, but another one is economy. So, for example, if the Japanese company relocate their factory from China to India, in this case, if there is a problem in India, they hesitate to do that. So that's why if the situation is tense for a long time, that is not good for Japan-India relation. View from the businessman, view from especially Japanese businessman, they afraid the situation. So that's why today it just ended immediately. That was good news, not only for India, but also Japan. And at the same time, the view from the security, this is good news too. Currently, Japan is planning to collaborate with India in the case of the joint fighter jet development project. Japan is joining the Tempest project, originally implemented by British and Italy. So this is trilateral fighter jet development project. Then Japan is including India. So in February, Japan asked India to join, and there is a possibility about the engine because the British has already collaborated with India. So there's a possibility that India will join this project. Even if India will not buy the products of these three countries. So that's why this is a good chance for Japan to collaborate with India. This is a good chance for the view from the India-Japan relation. So, but if India's fighter jet bombing, this is a conflict zone, the Japanese think, it is a very difficult, tough situation for Japanese to decide it because the Japanese originally based on pacifism base and not intervene the conflict outside of Japan. So that's why, simply said, we are not familiar with such kind of situation. So that's why if there is no conflict situation, of course, it is possible. But if the conflict is ongoing, this is more tough for the Japanese to decide it. So that's why the view from the both economy and security, this is a good chance for Japan and India. So ceasefire is very good news. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Nagao. Dr. Jai, yeah.
All right.
So we were talking about the South Asian comprehensive strategy against terrorism. Where do you see the Bangladesh stand in that one? And just mention that I asked Major General Basnat that the small countries, but internal disturbances is very high. So just let's take what's your take on this?
Right. Thank you very much, Indu. I hope you can hear me. It is very intriguing for me actually when I hear someone talking about terrorism, because my PhD thesis was on global war on terrorism and state fragility. I've worked on it for 4 years, so it's very intriguing that I was hearing some talks about terrorism from some other speakers, and well, let me just put two things in perspective here. First, I mean, I actually in that terrorization, I developed a theory which is tested in 3 countries, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Mali, on global war on terrorism and how it affects. So there is basically 3 levels in which the global structure of global war on terrorism operates. One is at the cognitive level, the other one is the regulatory level, and the third is the capability level. We have found, and in my research, it has found that cognitive level is the most dangerous one. And in our context, in the South Asian context, that is the most dangerous one because it initiates and triggers a process of othering. And that is most prevalent in the India-Pakistan context. There is all kind of fuels in it, religious, hatred, historic, cultural, everything. So the narrative of global war on terrorism or terrorism is used or in some cases abused. Remember, as General Basnat was saying, every country is affected by terrorism. A degree, it depends on the degree on which it was. If you had a panelist here from Pakistan, he would have highlighted how his country was affected by terrorism. So academics, in principle, believes on evidence and goes into the deep of the topic. The othering process that allowed this war on terrorism, it doesn't mean that we haven't developed mechanisms. We have tremendous amount of regulatory instruments for for fighting terrorism, starting from money laundering to any other things. But when you surpass that in the process of othering your own citizens, your past citizens, and you start seeing the region through a particular lens, that okay, this is what it is, this is what it means, then it is dangerous. So this is the first point that I'm trying to make. The second point is about what our friend from Japan was also highlighting, that in the case of the regional instability, And he actually supplemented the talks that I was telling, that regional players, small countries like Bangladesh or others, will not source the weapons from any countries around here. They'll look for the others. And actually, they will make the business, the militaries, because there is a insecurity dilemma because of this particular India-Pakistan crisis. And that insecurity dilemma is going to feed the arms race in the region. And when the arms race is fed, your development discourse gets backside. And then where do I buy the arms from? Not from India, not from Pakistan, or maybe not even from China, because I would like to go for a safe haven to buy it from Japan or the United States or the or the other Western countries. You need to understand the dynamics here, where the war entrepreneurs want to take this war conflict into. So that maturity as a region in the South Asia, we haven't achieved. That maturity we have not achieved because we still consider BRI, which has a strategic strategic initiative, a strategic sort of connotation, but each country has also conditions their policy sovereignty. But it is viewed as a strategic competition by someone that, okay, if you have joined BRI, which is an independent policy sovereignty of a small state. Now, if that's what I was making, my third point was it will carve policy sovereignty of the independent small states in the country, in the region. So if that is the concern, which will ultimately degrade the credibility of India being a net security provider or accepted as a net security provider. These are the dynamics that we need to sort of discuss, find a solution to, because India is a very big country. Pakistan is equally in a different dimension. It has different kind of strength. But as a region of South Asia, we haven't been able to come close together because we started seeing it. We have become almost captive to these two big players who often fight between each other and sort of thrust upon their lens to see the origin, the world around us. That should not be the case because, and that is, small countries are increasingly rejecting that because with their global connections, because of their global ability, and then because of the connectivity that we all have. It will have limits because geopolitics ultimately prevails. It will have limits. I'm sure it will have limits, but I hope some enlightened leadership comes in the region to take it forward, in which we can think of collectively that this is our region, and we don't need to solve to our problem to be solved from some other capitals, or we don't need to see each other or get the whole region bogged down on a particular lens. That should be our sort of way forward thing. Thank you.
You mentioned the geopolitics. We can't deny the major powers' role in the South Asia, in the Southeast Asia. The major powers will always be there. So now we see that the ceasefire news that has come from Washington, not from any South Asian countries did initiate to do this. So be a reminder. So now I take my next question to Lieutenant Colonel Soli, that is India losing the credibility of a net security provider?
Well, in 2014, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India for the first time in May 2014, he invited all the heads of state of all the SAARC countries for his inauguration, which all of them attended to. But then something changed in the next few months. After a few months, the SAARC summit was held in Kathmandu, Nepal, in which, except India, almost all countries of SAARC expressed desire that China should be made a member of SAARC. Well, that was unofficially the end of SAARC. After that, the next SAARC meeting was to be held in Islamabad, Pakistan in 2016, which was called off on the grounds of the Uri surgical strike. Well, SAARC has almost died. Now, SAARC not being active is a clear indicator that most of the South Asian countries have moved away from India towards China. China has deep pockets. It is a bitter truth that in today's materialistic world, money speaks. China, with the enormous financial power it has invested very heavily in every South Asian country. Today, as we speak, China has the full control of Gwadar port in Pakistan, Hambantota in Sri Lanka. In 23, it constructed the Cox's Bazar naval base in Bangladesh. We have seen the deepening defense ties between China and Bangladesh. Chinese military activity has been noticed in Lamu Atoll of Maldives. Chinese military activity has been noticed in Kaipukyu Islands of Myanmar. Clearly, if we see the map of India, all along the sea route, China has got some military base or high investments from the military point of view. So definitely coming specifically to your question, yes, there has been a great shift in South Asian countries from India towards China. Well, India is making a lot of efforts, but then, like I said, the dazzle of money is so strong that countries of South Asia have forgotten the historical good connection with India. And I don't speak as an Indian, I speak as a global citizen, because today there has to be some credence, some respect for the historical relations which even humans have. But sadly, that has eroded very badly ever since Xi Jinping has become the Chinese president and he has used money power to the hilt. Well, we will see in the times ahead how the South Asian countries will, stand up whenever the two-front war is there. We have seen the growing discontentment in Bangladesh towards India, the growing hostility in Bangladesh towards India. That is not a secret anymore. From last year, 5th August, when Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh, we have seen the kind of atrocities being done on the Hindus in Bangladesh, the kind of anti-India rhetorics coming from Bangladesh, whom India had helped in a very big manner become the nation that it is today. But then, like I said, the dazzle of money is so strong. So I don't see any change, much change in the next 1 decade. India is trying very hard, but then it is very difficult to change the reality. With each passing year, the investments of China are increasing in South Asian countries, because as China is moving towards its military aims, it is ensuring that whenever the balloon goes up, going up in military parlance means war starting. So whenever the balloon goes up, China should have adequate bases for its logistics. The other point which I was talking earlier, and I'll just take 1 more minute. You see, the era of no wars is over. We saw the 88-hour conflict between India and Pakistan, which clearly broke the myth that wars will not happen in future. Wars will happen. Rather, they'll happen much more now. And the first of the big wars after the Russia-Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas is going to be Taiwan in 2027, which has been said by the CIA chief William Burns on 3rd February 23. So the point that I'm making is we are going in for very tough times. It is South Asia, it is every nation in South Asia which has to decide, would it want peace? Would it want prosperity? Or would it want to be in a war directly or indirectly? The choice is totally on each of the South Asian nations. I personally believe we should give peace and prosperity a chance. How small a person is, he or she can always stand up to something wrong happening. How much lure the charm of money may be, but then we can't forget the historical connections we have. I may have been a little blunt, but then having seen wars myself, having seen bullets being fired in front of myself, I know what it means when you lose a regimental officer, a regimental soldier, a family member to wars and conflicts. So I think that because this is a forum of many eminent people who are very distinguished in the fields, whom I've been seeing a lot on LinkedIn, and thank you, Indu, that today I could, be a part of such a eminent panel. So my only request and my desire is that if we, in our individual capacity and capability, can usher in peace and prosperity in South Asia. Why not? Why not give it a chance?
Yeah, thank you, sir. We are honored to have you at the platform. And I'm moving to the next question. Looking at the, we heard the news of this ceasefire, and but in my observation, this conflict, starting from the Pahalgam terror attack, and this 4 days military operations, and from India, and again the Pakistan started the military operation yesterday. There is a given some name to that military operation. So I think the South Asia is now more fragile than ever before. And looking at this, I saw watch some news clips and see the drones that coming like from Pakistan, from the other side of the border, and they were due to, I'm just quoting some sources from the news channels. They just claiming that these drones are from the China and from Turkey. So looking at the China and Turkey, the external powers here, and I just want to point what Dr. Jahid said here, that the war entrepreneurs, so they who is giving the weapons and military supplies from coming to Pakistan, because like there was a terrorist attack, and let's say for both sides. So we see a big role of China and Turkey. Looking at the external actors here, how do you see that the confrontation in the future will take a role? Okay. It will shape the South Asian region. And again, I would just have a remark, because we are running out of time. We're running out of time on India's new terrorism policy that is announced, I guess, today, that any act of terror will be considered as an act of war. And then there is a NFU, I guess, no first use of India's policy that has been that was sustained, but now there is, I guess, there is a shift in that too. So just please give your brief remarks on these questions, and then we'll see if we have some questions from the audience too. Major General Basnet.
Well, Indu, well, Indu, coming back to the am I supposed to
Lieutenant, let's go ahead with the Mr. General Basnet, and then I will come to you.
Okay.
Okay. Apologies.
All right. So when I'm trying to answer, I will look into two things. One is the response and the positions that India and Pakistan had taken during the after the 22 April event, and the other is the global response for de-escalation, and why it played an important part. Because I think Delhi and Islamabad understands very well that war is won either, war ends with a win or compromise, or is exhausted. And I don't think all of three things can be achieved. Second, it is capabilities. And as Dr. Indu, you just brought out the capabilities from various countries, capabilities now, it's proxies, it is the supply, so and that. But the important part of the consideration is the economic factor. When India is the 5th largest economy by GDP and wishes to be and has an aspiration of being the 3rd, there was, I think, less desire by Delhi to really go into a long war. At the same time, the IMF bailed out $1 billion day before yesterday to Pakistan, and the constraint they have. Now, when you look at the response and positions, there are two important responses and by Pakistani foreign minister and the defense minister. Pakistani foreign minister, Mr. Dar, referred to the attack as it may be perpetrated as freedom fighters. So I quote, those who carried out attacks in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam district on April 22 might be freedom fighters, unquote. And the defense minister, Mr. Asif, admitted that backing and funding terrorist groups by bigger powers, the United States and even European nations, did, and that was a mistake that they made, and they're looking forward to correct it. So these are examples of responses. But at the same time, when you look at the global condemnation and calls for de-escalations, I think the shift of Saudi Arabia and Iran and their delegation meeting coming to Delhi and Islamabad did give a shift to which was a close ally with Pakistan. And the other is whether it is China, Russia, United States, the United Nations, I mean, all of them have not been really in favor, though they condemn terrorism. So these were factors, I think, which has contributed to this Washington deciding on a ceasefire. And I think it is Washington because of the domestic noise that is in both Pakistan and India. And I think it is Washington because it is more credible for the coming future. As I brought out in my opening remarks, the China and the US competitions, and China filling the vacuums of the United States' presence in South Asia does have a contemplation.
Sir. Sorry, sir, please.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, Indu, coming to your question, first I'll answer the second part of it. Yes, definitely. There's been a big shift in India's policy toward terrorism by it announcing today that any terrorist act will be taken as an act of war. This is clearly a shift from what we had been practicing till now. This clearly shows that India is now in an active mode, not in a reactive mode. Uri happened because our infantry brigade was hit in Uri. Uri's surgical strike happened after that. Pulwama terror attack happened, we did Balakot. Pahalgam happened, and we did Operation Sindoor. But now the policy is totally reversed. We'll be on the active mode. Coming to the first, part of your question, whether this terrorism is going to end, whether we will see peace between India and Pakistan, definitely not. The fissures, the fragility in South Asia will continue. But now Pakistan will continue in a more subtle manner. Pakistan will now try to cover up its tracks to the great extent it can by supporting terrorist attacks in India. But terrorist attacks in India will continue by Pakistan because, like I said earlier, the long-term strategy is 2035. Terrorism being supported by Pakistan in India is a small subset of the bigger strategic aim now of the 2035 two-front war. And one last part about the no first use policy by India. Well, today the Defense Minister of India has made it clear that though India has the no first use policy, but it will change as per the evolving situation. Clearly showing that now no first use policy will not be a guide for India. It can also initiate the nuclear war in case these situations so warrants. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Nagao.
Okay.
Your comments.
Thank you very much. The two things I want to say. First one, to equip the terrorists in the Pakistan using the very low quality of the AK-47 or the fake currency made by the factory in China, Pakistan. And so because of this, in the tribal area between Pakistan and Afghanistan, the very dead copy of the AK-47 we can find very easily. So under such, in this case, this AK-47 can fire only 30 rounds and broken. So this is not the real AK-47 made in the Soviet Union or China or Eastern Europe. Quality is very low. So that's why in this case, it is impossible to stop flow of weapon to terrorists, unfortunately. But so that is one thing. So in this case, it is impossible to stop it, I can say. But another one is, in this battle between India and Pakistan, we should worry about the quality of the Chinese weapon. because China improved their weapon and Pakistan rely on China now. 80% of the weapon came from China in the Pakistan now. So that's why the quality of the Chinese weapon is matter. Because in case of the Chinese weapon, viewed from the cost, they have already overcome the problem of the quantity. Now they improve the quality. Both quantity and quality as maybe China achieved. This means that many developing countries want to buy Chinese products. In this case, proliferation will happen. Many countries will possess the Chinese weapon, and China can produce quantity with quality, and it will be the big threat for us. That is matter of concern. So that's why we need to show more effort to improve our weapon in case of the quality and both quality and quantity in this case. That is matter this conflict suggesting. I believe so. Thank you.
Dr. Jai, thank you, Dr. Nagao. Dr. Jai, your comments, please.
Thank you, Indu. I think there are a couple of areas where I'm sort of required to make a response because it refers to Bangladesh. I think it seems to me that beyond the blabberings of the medias, the thing about the perception about Bangladesh has gradually shifted to another level, which sort of perturbs me because India, in my reading, of the great scholars, was a different country. It's a civilizational country, and then it had that kind of a intellectual sort of basis of understanding and thing in a more profound way. I have written actually after the August episode in Bangladesh, the fundamental reason for which India was a collateral of this. India was not the target. India actually was a collateral of the episodic change because of its putting all eggs in a basket and putting things like this, in which a country like Bangladesh, where an MP who is standing for the election was telling that my support is from India. A student in the renowned international public university gets slaughtered and killed abroad because he made a post against India. So somebody has to understand it. And then started the rhetorical adduction when the change happened, because there was all kind of things. So I'm really a little bit disturbed by, because the Indian scholars with whom I actually interact quite often, some of them understand it, and actually most of them would understand it, but I find a little bit sometimes it's very perturbing, because the problem is not that Bangladesh do not recognize or want to recognize what India had, how India has helped. But somebody needs to also read that India. That India is not today's India. And actually, in one of your presentation, I have evidenced that one from the Lok Sabha debate, quoting from what Atal Bihari Vajpayee told that and how he was responding. And I am telling that again because my latest article will come on the NDC, National Defense College Journal, on the 1971 war, taking all these things into account. So this is probably an enlightened understanding and rereading, relearning of the relationship with a point of view of mutual respect needs to come. And it also certainly requires a reflection, self-reflection, that why so many countries are aligning with China just because money. We also have very good relation with Japan. I know the military people have visited Japan and are looking for the radars to purchase radars and other things. I know for that, sure. So the reflection, the self-reflection is the first step in this case, in this particular thing here. The other thing about the technology, I think there is, of course, use of technology, supply of technology for both the sides. Israeli drones have been shot dead or found in the Indians using in inventory. The Turkish I haven't seen yet, but some of the other drones from other countries, Chinese specifically. But most importantly, as a Air Force officer, I must say, you have seen the use of the Chinese-made fighters have sort of dominated the discussion against Rafale and all this. None of I will not believe it unless it gets really published, the battle damage assessments and everything from real sources. But the crux of the discussion at certain defense forum is about which technology is better, which technology, what is this beyond radial range missile working, how it is working. It is actually contributing to the market share. And there are unconfirmed things, reports that some shares have fallen, some shares have increased. So that is where I'm talking about the war entrepreneurship, the war entrepreneurs, those who are war entrepreneurs, irrespective of their country. They want to sell those weapons, proving that these are more effective. So this is a battle of also technology, Chinese versus Western in this battle, because these technologies are getting tested. So overall, I think the understanding and the final point that I would like to make, that I am little as a person, because I have stayed in America, I have studied there, I have stayed in UK, I have studied there. I would have loved if the ceasefire thing was settled in this region, declared in this region by the two leaders, maybe meeting in Bhutan or in other countries. Okay, let's meet, go and sit, and then talk. That would have been Asian magnanimity. That would have been Asian solution to an Asian problem. But we haven't done that. We haven't reached there as yet. We haven't been able to reach there just because we keep on doing othering of each other in every step, and self-reflection is less. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jahid. And now we are running out of time. As I mentioned, closing this, Dr. Hayat, if you want to make some brief comments, you are most welcome. And as we conclude it here, as we know, India is a global rising power, and with the largest population in the world. And India is working with all major powers now in the European Union, and we are that the greatest deal with the UK in the trade deals. And with that, like US and Russia in the European Union, and I guess India is aspired to be the third largest economy in the 2027. So it's a golden era for the India, and these are the destruction. I guess focus more should we focus on the growth, economic growth. But yes, we can't. India can't ignore these kind of terrorist and terrorism activities on its soil, and the combat with the full. With the full scale, with the full scale, and also in my observation, the small states should not be insecure while with this. Now we see that how IMF is granted one Arab dollar grant to the Pakistan. So it's not like they don't have any role in the region, and they don't have the role in the, and the major powers are, of course, they are aligning with the major powers. So let's continue this insightful discussion we'll take a next round, and we'll see how we can bring peace and prosperity in South Asia. And thank you so much for your participation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Indu.
Thank you very much, Indu. Thank you.
Thank you very much.